Welcome back to my channel. My name is Huda London. I'm a licensed cognitive behavior therapist and a licensed mental health counselor. Today, I would like to talk about family therapy, especially family therapy with our teenagers and our youths. The reason I'm choosing this subject is because I believe that our teenagers are struggling with many mental health issues like depression, anxiety, maybe isolation, and even more severe mental health illness. I personally believe, and I believe that most mental health counselors, practitioners, therapists, we all believe that family therapy is the key for our youngsters so that we can try and help them to cope up with their daily struggles of depression, anxiety, PTSD, etc. I believe personally that we adults are very occupied with trying to make ends meet on the daily basis. Obviously, we are parents. We have to try and go out and work so that we can pay our bills for our families and so that we can help our children to get better education, sports, hobbies that they like, etc. But I personally believe that our youngsters are struggling in these last couple of years. One of the reasons could be definitely internet and the device that our youths and our teenagers have to their everyday needs. Obviously, time has changed. We do not live in the Stone Age. So, internet has become a part of our daily life. I do understand that our children, our teenagers, our young adults, our siblings, I'm talking about the younger ones, they all are quite advanced in the new devices like mobiles, tablets, iPads, laptops, etc. And that's not a bad thing. But it does have its downsides. I believe that teenagers these days are too busy with the device they have in their hand, even when they're at home. I have a 20-year-old boy, I have a 17-and-a-half-year-old, and I have a daughter who's around 25, now 26. They all are in different ages. My daughter obviously is adult. She's a teacher herself. But I enjoyed, especially in her time, raising her. The reason is because there wasn't much devices available. And even when there were devices, I believe that youngsters who grew up in the 90s, in the mid 90s, there was still that understanding with parents. They used to kind of obey us or try and listen to the parents. But now that social media has come into our everyday lives, I'm sure you all struggle with the same thing, that you have to tell your children to put off their devices at the dinner table, on the way to school, on the way back from school or college. Because it does happen to me, and it does happen to most of the clients that I work with. Such situations do occur, but today I want to talk about how to make a healthy family therapy and a family bond. Because I personally believe that there is so much bad and good that happens in this world. A lot of negative things do come from the internet. Let's be honest. We are usually not completely aware of our teenagers, what they're watching on the internet, on their devices. They're either busy with Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok or something connected with their devices. Social media and internet has proved that it has its positive sides. The best example is when the epidemic of COVID hit almost every country in the world. Most of us, or 99% of our children and our teenagers, were studying from home. They were having their tutorials and their education being done from home, which is really positive, because nobody wanted to bring COVID home, and especially many of the parents are vulnerable, who have diabetes or other illness. So COVID was a struggle. It was something new, a pandemic that hasn't happened in over 100,000. The last time it happened was a century, 100 years ago, actually, sorry. This was something that was really new for all of us, new for the teachers, new for the parents, new for the students. So I believe internet and devices were quite helpful so that our children and our students could continue going to their studies online. But then there is the unpositive sides of internet, or should I say more dangerous side of internet, like human trafficking, like sex offenders, pedophiles, sorry to say, many nasty people on keyboards that our teenagers sometimes can easily get trapped in it. The reason for that is, let's not forget that in psychology, mental health, and in science, it is a known fact that children's brains develop around 25 years old. So when it comes to the cognitive side of children, their thoughts and decision making, their brain cells are completely not developed. That is the reason, as parents, I believe it is important to follow what our children do online, especially when they're at home. We can't control them when they're in school or in college or with their friends, but we can actually try and be an active parent in their life. I do believe in giving children their privacy, but then there should be a boundary to how much privacy we give our children. Because it's not our children that are a problem usually, but it's the adults and the outer world that can influence our children into bad behaviors. I personally believe that it's really important to make a good connection with your children, no matter whatever age they are in. My daughter is in her mid-20s, but I still try to check what she does. I don't mean she's a teacher, so I don't check like who she dates and what she does, but I try to take an interest and a keen in her social life. I try and advise her no matter what. No child or no teenager, no youngster likes to be advised all the time by their parents, but I believe it is really important. There shouldn't be a boundary line of when you should stop advising your child, no matter whatever age they are, unless they are adult. There are so many hate to say it, nasty people out there that can influence our youngsters in a very bad way. We always hear of incidents where children get abducted or almost abducted, or can end up in a very bad stage. That is the reason I believe it's really important. The best way to monitor your child is not only by monitoring the device. I believe the best way to do is by having a healthy relationship with your child to start with, no matter what. Nobody's perfect. I have 3 children, like I said, and it's not easy. But then I found out, before I was a counselor, before I started studying counseling, I used to get into a lot of arguments with my daughter. She used to think that I used to always interfere in things that weren't my business. She thought I was a bit too strict with her, and I would say I was kind of, because I did not know the right way to tackle situations or to explain in a proper way to my daughter. But when I became a counselor, it became easier, in fact, with my sons. It's not every day easy, but then it has become much easier because the family therapy skills that I've learned has helped me to tackle with them. Oh, it's so hot, guys, sorry. The best and most important thing, I believe, is we as parents have this way of, when our teenagers argue with us, we argue back, and we try to show them who's the parent and who's in control. But it usually doesn't end up right, because the teenager will just end up going to the room, slamming the door and saying, "Leave me alone." And then they can get up into guys, just hold on. Sorry. Basically, our teenagers will not have a good relationship with us. They will end up slamming their doors and telling us to leave them alone. But what we can do different is have a communication with our children. The best way is to sit and tell them that make certain kind of boundaries. Tell them that no matter what happens, I as a parent will try and be better and will be organized, not to raise my voice, and I expect the same from you as my child or as a teenager or whatever the age they are in. It may not go well the first time, it may not go well the second time, but if you keep on working on it and make it a constant rule, it will pay off at the end. Example, if you're a child or especially I'm talking mostly about teenagers, if they raise their voice, what you should do is don't raise your voice back. Just tell them, I think that this is not getting us anywhere. I believe you need to go take some time and sit and think to yourself and find a better way to approach me and to talk to me in a nice and decent way. They may get upset and they may think that you don't want to talk to them, but keep it as a rule. When they do it once and then they do it twice, maybe thrice, they will understand at the end that this is something that you really mean. Make it constant. Give them the respect that they deserve, and they should give you the respect that you deserve as a parent. Communication is a very important thing. It is key with family therapy. It is key in counseling itself. Mental health counseling, what we do usually as a therapist is active listening. We try and listen so that we can try and help the client. And that is the same way we should do with our children, with our family, whether it's your mother, whether it's your sister, whether it's your brother, whoever you're having a situation with. The way we speak to each other and the tone and manner we speak to each other is really very important. It's extremely important. Because if your child or your teenager believes that they can't talk to you as a father or as a mother, then they may end up going somewhere else to talk to someone. And that is not always the best solution. It is important for us parents to have a communication with our child. Let them keep on slamming the doors, but show them always that that door is open for them to come out and have a discussion with you decently. We expect as parents and as adults, we expect our children to listen to us. But it's not always as adults that we see where our children are coming from. Because usually as teenagers, they will be yelling and will be hiding things from us. Or maybe they just feel at times that it's so hard to talk to you, mom, or it's so hard to talk to you, dad. I prefer talking to my friends, and then they can do a dumb mistake that can cost them their life or can cost them something valuable. That is why it's important that communication, for me, I believe boundaries, mindfulness, respect, communication, honesty are all key important things. If our teenagers do not have that mentality that they can always come and talk to us in time of needs, like I said, they may end up going somewhere else that you may not like as a parent. When my 17-year-old argues with me at times, especially last year when he was 16 years old, I was having a tough time because he's very decent. He goes to his second year in college. But it's like at times he used to feel like I don't understand him and I just expect him to go and do things that he's supposed to do without me taking an understanding to where he's coming from and what is bothering him. But since I made that kind of deal with him, that whatever you have on your heart, just say it. Come and talk to me no matter what it is. I won't be upset at you. I'll try and understand where you're coming from. And if I do not like what you're saying or the decision that you're making, then I will let you know. So I've noticed for the last 11 months, almost a year, it's been going extremely well. Because he knows the rule. Slamming your door is not going to get my attention. I've told him that and he's understood that. Being on your device when you're at home, especially when we're eating our meals or having family visitors, he's understood that it's not going to get him far. It took a bit time and it took hard work, and it's not good, and it's turned positive, but it's not guaranteed that it'll continue being that way. But what I try to do is monitor his friends, because that is really important with our children. That's what I believe. Who our children roam with and what friends they have in life is very important for us to monitor. Because most of the influence comes from people and students and friends that our teenagers hang with, that they go around with. Like the famous saying from Shakespeare, show me your friend and I'll tell you who you are. I remember I used to hate that saying when my older brother used to tell me when I was younger. He said, Huda, show me your friend and I'll tell you who you are. And I used to say, stop saying that. If my friend jumps over the cliff, I don't have to necessarily jump over the cliff too. I have my own brains and all that. That was when I was 18, 19. It took me a long time along the way. Those words stuck to me. And now while I'm in my 40s, my brother's only 2 years older than me. When he calls me, he has a PhD as a doctor and tells me, did you learn anything about that Shakespeare saying, quote, show me a friend, I'll tell you who you are. And I keep on telling him, yes, I did. I understood it. No, I understood it then actually. And that's the same quote I use on my children too, all the time. It's not like they roam around with bad crowds, but it's just that there are students in college who would be up to no good. And I always tell my son, I can't monitor you in college. I can't be around with you. But just remember, if you get expelled from college, you'll have me to answer to. So I believe what you invest in your children from when they're young is very important. Children are not supposed to fear us, but there has to be boundaries between respecting us, and at the same time it is good that they understand that you're not going to take every crap they bring you with. That made all my 3 children understand from young. So they know. I always tell my son, if you're going to argue with your teacher, both my sons, my 20-year-old boy is just an angel. He's always been quiet from when he was young. But my youngest and my oldest daughter, she's quiet too. I always tell them, go and argue with the teachers, and I promise you, I will stick with the teacher's side, not your side at all. So they've understood that in the long term. I make them understand the value of a teacher, that teachers are here to teach, they're not here for fun. I teach them to respect law and enforcement, obey law enforcement. At times, my son always keeps saying, oh, Mom, why did you become a therapist? Now I have to listen to all your lectures and all every day. And I tell him that the reason I became a therapist is because of you. Because I knew as a single parent, it is a struggle. It is a struggle raising men, boys to men, and raising a girl to women. So coming back to what I'm saying is that family is the key. Communication is the key to keep family in check. The same goes with couples counseling that I work with too. I believe that not most, but a lot of marriages lead into divorce because people have forgot ethical morals. By ethical morals, I mean respect, communication, loyalty, trust, honesty, active listening with each other's conversation, and especially people have lost their patience. Patience is a key thing. Because if people do not have patience, everything will go down the drain. Whether it's a marriage, whether it's an education, whether it's friendship, or whatever it may be. Respect, patience, communications, all these things are important things to value. So guys, if you all have teenagers, if you all have young adults, I would advise you all to communicate with them. Talk to them, even if they want to. I know how teenagers are and young adults. They want to have their own space and close their door, and they don't want parents coming and nagging them. But then it is important for us to make family time. Like making boundaries that children don't use devices when they're sitting and eating, because even the food digests better when you're not occupied with devices. People are so occupied with devices that we've actually forgotten how to sit and communicate as normal people. And that leads, I personally believe, and it's a mental health turn into depression, anxiety, PTSD, or whatever. Many of the youngsters these days, teenagers, and even in fact younger, have suicidal thoughts without us being aware of. And many parents, I've noticed, run automatically to a psychologist or counselor, especially CBT